My father convinced me and my siblings that our mom abandoned us after the divorce and only cared about her new rich life, until I received court records showing he blocked her from seeing us, emptied our college accounts, committed identity theft against all three of us, and was living a double life with another family we never knew existed. Hi, this is about my 28F dad, 56M, and my mom, 54F, who divorced when I was 3. My older brother Remington, 30M, and younger sister Jenny, 26F, are involved too. I grew up in my dad's house after the divorce. He got primary custody and my mom got us every other weekend. My whole childhood was spent listening to Dad talk about how Mom and her husband Reed destroyed our family. Dad worked as an accountant at a mid-sized firm and he always made it clear that money was tight. Every time I asked for new shoes or school supplies he would sit at the kitchen table with his calculator and bill spread out. He would rub his temples and mention how much child support he paid. He never said Mom's name directly during these moments, but he would look at old photos from before the divorce and shake his head. Mom lived in a nice neighborhood about 30 minutes away. Her house had a pool and a finished basement. Reed worked in commercial real estate and they seemed comfortable. Every time we came back from visiting Mom, Dad would ask us what we did there. He wanted to know what they bought us and what they said about him. Remington learned early to tell Dad that Mom's house was boring. Jenny and I followed his lead. We knew that talking positively about Mom's place made Dad quiet for days. When I was 8, Mom forgot to pick us up for a scheduled visit. We waited outside the school for 2 hours. Dad had to leave work to get us. He drove us home and made us hot chocolate. Then he explained that Mom cared more about her new life than about us. He said she probably forgot because she was shopping or getting her nails done. Remington asked why Mom would forget us and Dad said that some people only think about themselves. After that, Remington refused to go on visits. He would lock himself in his room when Mom came to pick us up. Dad never forced him to go. By the time I was in high school, I saw Mom maybe once a month. The visits were awkward. She would ask about school and I would give short answers. She tried to plan activities but I told her I had homework. Reed tried to talk to me about college and I barely responded. I assumed they were putting on a show. Dad had explained that they wanted to look like good parents without actually doing the work. When I turned 17, I asked Dad about college savings. He got very quiet. Then he pulled out a folder with financial documents. He showed me payment records for child support and receipts for everything he bought us. He explained that Mom was supposed to contribute to college costs but she spent her money on vacations instead. He showed me photos from her Facebook of trips to Hawaii and Europe. He said I would need to get loans and work part-time. I applied for financial aid and got a partial scholarship. I worked 20 hours a week at a grocery store throughout college. Remington stopped talking to Mom completely when he was 18. He told her during a phone call that she was never a real mother. Jenny kept minimal contact but she felt guilty about it. She would visit Mom twice a year on holidays and spend the entire time staring at her phone. I graduated college with $40,000 in student debt. Mom sent a card with a check for $200. I deposited it but I did not call to thank her. Last month I was checking my email before work. There was a message from an address I did not recognize. The subject line said, "You deserve to know the truth." I almost deleted it as spam. Then I opened it. The email had no text but it had 12 attachments. All of them were scanned court documents. The first file was a transcript from a custody hearing when I was 5. The judge had issued an order requiring Dad to bring us to visits. The transcript showed that Mom filed a complaint because Dad missed over 40 scheduled visits in 2 years. There were dates and times listed. I remembered some of those weekends. Dad told us Mom canceled because she was busy. The second file was a police report from when I was 6. Mom had called the police because she came to pick us up and Dad would not answer the door. The report said she could hear children inside. The officer knocked and Dad eventually came out. He told the officer we were sick. The officer noted that he heard children playing. Mom told the officer this was the 4th time Dad refused to let her take us on her scheduled days. I sat at my kitchen table reading these files for 3 hours. I was late to work. My supervisor called but I did not answer. There was a psychological evaluation from when I was 14. A court-appointed psychiatrist interviewed me about my relationship with my parents. I told the psychiatrist that Mom abandoned us and only cared about money. The psychiatrist wrote in his notes that my answers were scripted. He wrote that I used the exact same phrases my father used in his interview. The psychiatrist recommended family therapy. I never went to family therapy. Dad told me the court dropped it. The last file was about college funds. Mom had set up education accounts for all 3 of us when we were young. Dad was named as a joint account holder. The accounts had about $60,000 total when I was 15. Mom filed a motion when she discovered the accounts were empty. Dad told the court he used the money for our medical expenses and school costs. The judge ordered him to provide receipts. The case was sealed after a settlement. I never saw any settlement money. I could not go to work that day. I called in sick. Then I called Mom. My hands were shaking when I dialed. She answered on the second ring. Her voice sounded surprised. I asked if we could meet. She said yes immediately. We met at a coffee shop the next morning. Mom brought a cardboard box. Her eyes were red when she sat down. I put my phone on the table with the email open. I asked her if the court documents were real. She nodded. Then she opened the box. Inside were birthday cards. Hundreds of them. She had written us cards every year for every birthday and holiday since the divorce. She never stopped. Dad told us she forgot about us, but she had a card for every year I had been alive. Mom explained that she worked as an administrator at an elementary school. Reed managed small apartment buildings. They were not rich. Their house was in a good neighborhood, but they had a mortgage. The vacations Dad showed me were from points Reed earned through work travel. Mom said she tried to tell us the truth many times, but we would not listen. She stopped trying because she did not want to make us choose sides. I asked about the college fund. Mom looked down at her coffee. She said that when she discovered Dad emptied the accounts, she hired a lawyer. The lawyer told her she could file criminal charges, but it would mean Dad might go to jail. She did not want us to lose our father. She agreed to a settlement where Dad paid her back over time. She planned to give us the money after we graduated. But Dad stopped making payments after 6 months. She took him back to court, but he declared bankruptcy. The judge said there was nothing more to do. We sat in that coffee shop for 5 hours. Mom told me about every missed visit. Dad told her we were sick or busy. He told her we did not want to see her. When she insisted on coming anyway, he would take us out of the house. We would spend the day at his friend's apartment or at the movies. He told us Mom canceled. Mom said she drove to our school and tried to see us at lunch. The principal told her she was not allowed on campus during school hours because of a restraining order. Mom never filed a restraining order. Dad filed one against her claiming she was harassing us. It was dismissed, but it took 6 months. I went home and threw up. Then I pulled my credit report. I had never checked it before. There were 4 credit cards in my name that I did not open. The total balance was almost $60,000. The accounts were opened when I was 19. There were also 2 personal loans. I called the credit card companies. They said the cards were opened with my social security number and an address I did not recognize. I filed police reports. The next email came a week later. It was from the same anonymous sender. This email had news articles attached. Dad was under investigation at his firm for embezzling. The articles said he had been taking money from client accounts for 5 years. The total was over $300,000. One article mentioned that he claimed his daughter had cancer and needed expensive treatment. He used falsified medical bills to justify withdrawals from his company health savings account. I never had cancer. I drove to Dad's house without calling first. He opened the door smiling. He hugged me and asked if I wanted to stay for dinner. I walked past him into the kitchen and put my laptop on the table. I pulled up the court documents. His smile disappeared. He asked where I got those files. I told him it did not matter. I asked why he lied. Dad sat down. He said Mom poisoned me against him. He said she always wanted to destroy him. I showed him my credit report. His face went white. He stood up and told me to leave. I asked him again why he did this. He started yelling. He said I was just like my mother. He said I was a traitor. He told me to get out of his house and never come back. I called Remington and Jenny that night. I sent them the files. Remington did not respond for 2 days. Jenny called me back within an hour. She was crying. We agreed to meet without telling Dad. Remington finally texted that he would meet us at the library. At the library, Remington barely looked at me. He said the documents could be fake. I told him to check his own credit report. He pulled it up on his phone. His face changed when he saw the debt. He had $70,000 in fraudulent accounts. Jenny had $40,000. None of us had known. That week my apartment was broken into. My TV and laptop were gone. The police said it looked like a standard burglary. But the only things missing were my electronics and a folder I kept with printed copies of all the court documents. My jewelry box was untouched. There was a text from an unknown number on my phone when I got home from the police station. It said I should stop looking into things that did not concern me. I packed a bag and asked Mom if I could stay with her. She said yes. I have been living in her guest room for 2 weeks now. Reed set up a security camera at the front door. Remington is still not speaking to me. Jenny visits every few days. I do not know what to do next. The police said the break-in is under investigation, but they do not have any leads. Dad has not contacted me. I found out from a former co-worker of his that he was placed on administrative leave from his job. I do not know who sent me the documents and I do not know why they sent them now. Update 1: a lot has happened since I posted. First, Remington finally agreed to meet with me and Jenny without Dad knowing. We met at a park near Jenny's apartment. Remington brought printed copies of his credit report and some other documents. He had been doing his own research. Remington found out that Dad opened the first fraudulent account in his name 7 years ago. The oldest account on my report was from 9 years ago. Jenny started 6 years ago. All of the accounts were opened right after each of us turned 18. Remington had also requested his college financial aid records. He discovered that Dad claimed Remington had a full scholarship when in reality Remington had taken out nearly $70,000 in loans. Dad was listed as a cosigner but never made a single payment. Remington thought his loans were paid off because he had been sending money to an account Dad set up. The account was in Dad's name only. None of the money went to the actual loan payments. Jenny admitted that Dad convinced her to open a joint savings account with him 2 years ago. She put money from her paychecks into it to save for a house. Dad was supposed to match her contributions. The account currently had $300 in it. Jenny had deposited over $18,000. While we were talking, a woman approached us. She was in her early 40s and she looked nervous. She introduced herself as Megan. She said she worked as Dad's assistant at his accounting firm. She was the one who sent the anonymous emails. Megan explained that she started working for Dad 4 years ago. About a year into the job she noticed irregularities in client accounts. She brought it up to Dad and he convinced her it was a system error. Then she saw him falsifying documents. She did not know what to do because she needed the job. She has 2 kids and she was going through a divorce. Dad paid her well and offered flexible hours. 6 months ago Megan was filing paperwork in Dad's office. She found a second phone in his desk drawer. The phone buzzed with a text message. The preview on the lock screen showed a message from someone named Amy asking when he was coming home. Megan did not think much of it until she saw a photo on the desk she had never noticed before. It was a picture of Dad with a woman and a young boy. The boy looked about 6 or 7. The photo was tucked behind other frames. Megan started paying closer attention. She noticed Dad left work early every Friday and came back Monday morning looking tired. He told everyone he was visiting his brother upstate. Megan never heard him mention a brother before. She checked the company travel records. Dad was not submitting mileage for these trips. She looked up the address on some packages that came to the office for Dad. The return address was in Ohio. We live in Pennsylvania. Megan did more digging. She found out Dad had a girlfriend named Amy in Cleveland. Amy had a son named Tyler. Tyler was 7 years old. Megan found social media posts from Amy talking about her partner who worked in finance. The posts went back 8 years. There were photos of Dad at birthday parties and holidays. In one post from 3 years ago, Amy mentioned how hard it was when her partner could only visit on weekends but that they were making it work. Megan said she decided to send us the court documents after she discovered Dad was being investigated for embezzlement. She felt guilty for not speaking up sooner. She thought we deserved to know the truth about everything. After Megan left, the 3 of us sat in silence for a while. Then Remington said he wanted to confront Dad. Jenny and I tried to convince him to wait but he was already walking to his car. We followed him to Dad's house. Dad was in the driveway washing his car when we pulled up. He saw all 3 of us get out and his expression changed. Remington walked right up to him and asked about Amy and Tyler. Dad dropped the hose. Water ran across the driveway. He tried to deny it at first. Then Remington showed him screenshots from Amy's social media that Megan had given us. Dad's face turned red. He said it was none of our business. He said we had no right to dig into his private life. Jenny asked how he could afford to support another family while claiming he was broke. Dad said we did not understand his situation. Remington asked if Tyler knew about us. Dad did not answer. The neighbors started coming outside because Remington was yelling. Dad told us to leave. He went inside and locked the door. We stood in the driveway until the police showed up. Someone had called about a disturbance. The officer asked us to leave the property. We did. 2 days later I got a call from a detective. Dad had been arrested. The charges were related to the embezzlement, but there were additional charges for identity theft and fraud related to the credit cards he opened in our names. The detective asked if I would be willing to give a statement. I said yes. Remington and Jenny also gave statements. The detective told us that Dad tried to use money from the fraudulent accounts to pay off gambling debts. He had been betting on sports for years. The debt was significant. The detective said Dad faced serious prison time if convicted. I called Mom and told her everything. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said she wished she had fought harder in court when we were young. She said she thought she was protecting us by not forcing the issue. I did not know what to say to that. Remington has been staying at a hotel because he does not want to be at his apartment alone. Jenny is looking into options for getting the money back that she put in the joint account with Dad. I am still at Mom's house. Reed has been kind. He does not push me to talk but he makes breakfast every morning and leaves it on the counter for me. The hardest part is realizing how many years I wasted. I did not call Mom on her birthday. I did not invite her to my college graduation. I told people my mom was not involved in my life. I believed every lie Dad told us. Remington is dealing with the same thing but he is angrier. He threw away letters Mom sent him over the years without reading them. Jenny keeps apologizing to Mom even though Mom tells her she does not need to. We are supposed to meet with a prosecutor next week to discuss the case. I do not know if I want Dad to go to prison but I also do not know if I can forgive what he did. Remington says he never wants to see Dad again. Jenny has not decided. Mom said she will support whatever we choose. Update 2: Dad's lawyer contacted us trying to arrange a meeting. He said Dad wanted to apologize and explain himself. Remington refused immediately. Jenny was unsure. I agreed to hear what Dad had to say, but only with a lawyer present. We arranged to meet at the lawyer's office. Dad looked different. He had lost weight and his hair was grayer. He did not make eye contact when we walked in. His lawyer explained that Dad was willing to plead guilty to reduced charges if we agreed not to pursue the civil case for the identity theft. The lawyer said Dad wanted to make things right. Dad finally looked up. He said he was sorry. He said he made mistakes and he knew he hurt us. Then he tried to explain. He said after the divorce he was depressed. He started gambling as a way to cope. He won some money at first and it made him feel in control. Then he started losing. He took money from our college funds to cover the losses. He planned to pay it back, but he kept losing more. Jenny asked about Amy and Tyler. Dad's face changed. He said he met Amy at a casino 9 years ago. She was a cocktail server. They started talking and then dating. She got pregnant and he panicked. He said he could not tell us because he did not want us to think he replaced us. He tried to support both families, but the money was never enough. That was when he started taking from the client accounts at work. Remington asked why Dad lied about Mom. Dad was quiet for a long time. Then he said he was angry after the divorce. He felt like Mom moved on too quickly with Reed. He wanted us to understand how much he was hurting. He admitted that he made up most of the stories about Mom canceling visits. He said he thought if we were angry at her, we would not blame him for the divorce. I asked about the medical fraud. Dad looked at his lawyer. The lawyer said we did not need to discuss specifics. Dad insisted. He said he told his company I had cancer because he needed a reason to access the health savings account. He used the money to pay off a loan shark. He said he was going to be hurt if he did not pay. He said he was trying to protect himself. Jenny started crying. She asked if anything Dad told us was true. Dad said he loved us. He said that part was true. Remington stood up and left. Jenny and I stayed a few more minutes. Dad's lawyer gave us paperwork about the plea deal. He said we should take time to think about it. Outside the office, Remington was sitting in his car. Jenny and I got in. None of us said anything for a while. Then Remington said he was not signing any deal. He wanted Dad to face the full charges. Jenny said she did not know what she wanted. I said I needed time. That night I found out from Megan that Dad had been trying to contact Amy from jail. Amy was not taking his calls. Megan said she had spoken to Amy by phone. Amy told her that Dad claimed he was divorced and that his kids were adults who did not need him. Amy had no idea we existed until the arrest made the local news. She saw Dad's name and our names mentioned in the article. She looked us up online and pieced it together. Megan also told me that the firm was pursuing their own lawsuit against Dad for the embezzled money. His pension was being seized. His house was going into foreclosure. Everything he owned would be liquidated to pay back the firm and the credit card companies. Mom helped me find a lawyer to navigate the identity theft case. The lawyer said we could sue Dad in civil court regardless of his criminal plea. The credit card companies were also pursuing him. My credit was ruined. Jenny's and Remington's too. The lawyer said it would take years to clear our names even with police reports and documentation. A week after the meeting with Dad's lawyer, I got a call from the prosecutor. There were new charges. Dad had tried to hire someone to intimidate me into dropping the case. He contacted an old gambling associate from jail and asked him to scare me into backing off. The associate went to the police instead. Dad was charged with solicitation of assault. His bail was revoked. Remington came to Mom's house when he heard. He said he was glad Dad was locked up. Jenny was scared. She asked if Dad would actually have hurt us. Nobody had an answer. The prosecutor told us the new charges meant the plea deal was off the table. Dad was going to trial. The trial date was set for 4 months out. We would all have to testify. Mom made dinner that night. All 3 of us were at her table. Reed sat at the end and did not say much. It was the first time we had all been together in Mom's house in over a decade. The silence was strange. Jenny tried to make small talk about work. Remington ate without looking up. I kept thinking about all the dinners we missed. After dinner, Mom brought out a photo album. It had pictures from when we were babies. There were photos of birthday parties we did not remember. Mom pointed out details in each picture. She remembered everything. Remington left the room. Jenny stayed and looked through the album with Mom. I sat on the couch and watched them. Reed drove Remington back to his hotel later that night. When Reed came back he told Mom that Remington cried in the car. He said Remington told him he did not know how to fix what he had done. Reed did not push him. He just drove. Update 3: The trial happened last month. It lasted 3 days. We all testified. The prosecutor presented the court documents, the credit reports, the falsified medical records, everything. Dad's lawyer tried to argue that Dad was mentally ill and not fully responsible. The jury did not buy it. Dad was convicted on all counts: embezzlement, identity theft, fraud, and solicitation of assault. The sentencing hearing was 2 weeks ago. The judge gave him 12 years. With good behavior he might get out in 8. Before the judge announced the sentence, we were allowed to speak. Remington went first. He read from a paper he had written. He talked about missing mom's side of the family growing up. He talked about the anger he carried for years toward someone who did not deserve it. He said he could not forgive Dad. Then he sat down. Jenny spoke without notes. She talked about the joint savings account. She said she trusted Dad completely and he stole from her without hesitation. She said she did not know if she would ever trust anyone again. Her voice broke at the end. I went last. I brought the birthday cards Mom had saved. I held them up so the judge could see. I said Dad took 25 years from us. I said he did not just steal money. He stole our relationship with our mother. I said I would never get those years back. Then I put the cards back in the box and returned to my seat. Dad was given a chance to speak. He apologized again. He cried. He said he loved us. The judge was not moved. 12 years. After the sentencing, we met with the prosecutor. She said the restitution order meant Dad would have to pay back the credit card debt and the embezzled funds. His house had already been sold. The money went to the firm. We would be unlikely to see any money from him. The credit card companies were writing off the debt, but our credit would take years to repair. Remington decided to move to a different state. He got a job offer in Colorado and he took it. He said he needed distance from everything. He told Mom he would call her once he got settled. He has not called yet, but he did send her a text last week with a picture of the mountains. Jenny is seeing someone from her book club. She brings him to Mom's house for dinner sometimes. He is polite and he does not ask about Dad. Jenny seems lighter than before, but she still has moments where she gets quiet and withdrawn. I am still living with Mom and Reed. I started looking at apartments, but I have not found anything yet. My credit is too damaged to rent on my own. I need a cosigner. Mom offered, but I have not decided if I want to take her up on it. Part of me wants to stay. Part of me wants my own space. Mom and I have been going through old photos. She has boxes of pictures from our childhood that we never saw. There are photos of us at her house that I do not remember. In one picture I am maybe 4 years old and I am sitting on her lap laughing. I have no memory of that moment. Mom says it was a Sunday in summer and we had gone to the park. She says I fell off the swing and scraped my knee and she held me until I stopped crying. Then we got ice cream. I do not remember any of it. Reed has been teaching me how to fix things around the house. Last weekend we replaced a broken cabinet hinge in the kitchen. He showed me how to measure and drill without splitting the wood. He did not talk about Dad or the trial. We just worked. It was nice. We visited Dad once. Mom thought we should. She did not come inside. She waited in the parking lot. Jenny and I went in. Remington refused to come. Dad looked smaller in the prison uniform. He tried to hug us through the glass partition before realizing he could not. He asked about our lives. We gave short answers. He cried. We did not. The visit lasted 20 minutes. We have not been back. Amy reached out through Facebook. She apologized for Dad's lies. She said Tyler asks about his father, but she does not know what to tell him. She sent a picture of Tyler. He looks like Dad. I did not respond. I do not know what I would say. The house Dad lived in sold for less than he owed on the mortgage. The bank took a loss. Dad's lawyer said there might be tax implications for us since we were listed as dependents on some of his paperwork. We are working with an accountant to sort it out. Mom gave us each a folder last week. Inside were copies of every letter and card she sent over the years. Every birthday card. Every Christmas card. Every thinking of you note. She kept copies of all of them. She said she wanted us to have them so we would know she never stopped trying. Jenny keeps hers on her nightstand. I do not know where Remington keeps his. Mine is in a drawer in the guest room. I got a job at a library near Mom's house. It does not pay much, but the schedule is flexible. My coworkers do not know about the trial. I told them my dad and I do not talk. They did not ask why. I shelve books and help people find things. It is quiet. Mom asked if I wanted to go through my old room at Dad's house before the bank cleared it out. I said no. Jenny went with one of her friends. She brought back a box of our childhood toys. There was a stuffed elephant I slept with when I was little. I did not remember it, but Mom did. She said I named it Peanut. I put it on a shelf in the guest room. Remington called Mom on her birthday last month. They talked for 10 minutes. He told her about his new apartment and his job. He did not mention Dad. Mom was happy after the call. She did not stop smiling for the rest of the day. I do not know what happens next. The trial is over. Dad is in prison. Our credit is destroyed. We are trying to rebuild relationships that should never have been broken. Some days are easier than others. I still get angry when I think about the lies. Jenny still cries sometimes. Remington still will not come home. Mom says it takes time. She says we have to be patient with ourselves. Reed says the same thing. I am trying. We all are. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My ex asked me to help him get a job, so I referred him to my company, but when they wanted him to work under me I had to say no, and now he's telling people I sexually harassed him. I'm Maya, 29F, and I work as a senior marketing coordinator at a tech startup. I've been at this company for about 8 months now and I really love it here. The culture is great, my boss respects my opinions, and I've already gotten more responsibility than I had at my last job. This whole mess started because I tried to help someone I used to date. His name is David, 27M, and we went out for about 2.5 years. We broke up around 18 months ago. It wasn't a nasty breakup or anything like that. We just grew apart and wanted different things. He was focused on finishing his master's degree in computer science and I was trying to advance my career. We barely saw each other near the end. After we split up, we didn't talk for maybe 6 months. Then we started chatting again on Instagram and Twitter. It felt natural and easy. We would comment on each other's posts about work stuff or send memes. Sometimes we'd complain about bad dates or share job hunting frustrations. It was actually much better than when we were together. No pressure, no expectations, just two people who knew each other well enough to give decent advice. David finished his master's program last month and started looking for work. The job market is tough right now, especially for new graduates. He'd been applying everywhere and getting mostly rejections. I could tell from his posts that he was getting discouraged. At my current company, I heard through the grapevine that our customer service department was struggling. They needed someone with technical skills who could handle complex client issues. The manager there, Lisa, had been complaining in meetings about how hard it was to find qualified people. Most applicants either had the technical background but no customer service experience, or they were great with people but couldn't handle the technical side. David had worked in customer support at his previous job while he was in school. He was good at explaining complicated things in simple terms and he never lost his temper with difficult customers. I remembered him helping me troubleshoot my laptop once and being really patient when I didn't understand something right away. I thought it would be perfect. David needed a job, Lisa needed someone with his exact skill set, and I could help connect them. I've always believed in helping people when you can. My older sister got me my first internship through a connection at her company, and it made a huge difference in my career. I sent an email to our HR person, Janet, explaining that I knew a recent graduate who might be a good fit for the customer service position. I mentioned that David had worked with me at my previous company and that he was reliable and smart. I didn't go into detail about our personal history because I didn't think it mattered. We weren't dating anymore and he'd be working in a completely different department. Janet got back to me the next day saying she'd love to meet him. I gave her David's contact information and told him to expect her call. He was excited about the opportunity and thanked me for thinking of him. The interview happened last week. David texted me afterward saying it went really well and that Janet seemed impressed. I was happy for him and figured that was the end of my involvement. Then yesterday, Janet called me. She said David had done amazingly in the interview and that everyone who met him was impressed. She said his technical skills were exactly what they needed and that he seemed like a great culture fit. But then she said something that made my stomach drop. She told me that after talking to some other managers, they decided the customer service role wasn't challenging enough for someone with David's background. Instead, they wanted to create a new position in my department. They were thinking of making him a marketing technology specialist who would report directly to me. I sat there holding the phone, not knowing what to say. Janet kept talking about how excited she was and how it would be great for department collaboration. She said they were planning to offer him a salary that was $15,000 more than the customer service job would have paid. I managed to tell Janet I needed to think about it and hung up. I've been pacing around my apartment ever since. The idea of managing David makes me uncomfortable in ways I can't fully explain. We have a good friendship now, but that's because we don't have to deal with any power dynamics or professional pressure. If he becomes my direct report, I'd be responsible for his performance reviews, his day-to-day work assignments, and his professional development. I'd have to give him feedback on his work and potentially discipline him if he screwed up. What if he starts dating someone new and brings her to company events? What if other people find out we used to be together and think I'm showing favoritism? What if he expects special treatment because of our history? I also realized I should have told Janet up front that we used to date. I didn't think it would matter when he was going to be in customer service, but this changes everything. If I don't say something now and it comes out later, it could look like I was hiding a conflict of interest on purpose. I called my current boyfriend Mark, 30M, last night to talk through the situation. We've been together for about 4 months and spend most weekends together, though we haven't made anything official yet. Mark knows that David and I are friends on social media and he's never seemed bothered by it. I explained the whole situation to Mark and told him I was worried about how awkward it would be to have David working under me. Mark listened without interrupting and then said he thought I should trust my instincts. He said if the situation was making me this uncomfortable, it probably wasn't a good idea. He also said I should definitely tell HR about the previous relationship before things went any further. Mark's reaction actually made me feel better about the whole thing. He wasn't jealous or upset, just practical. He said his main concern was that I seemed stressed about it and that my peace of mind was more important than helping David get a job. I've been thinking about this all day and I know what I have to do. I need to tell Janet about the relationship and explain why I don't think it's appropriate for David to work in my department. I feel bad because this is a really good opportunity for him, much better than the customer service role. But I also know that if I don't speak up now, it could create problems for both of us down the line. I'm planning to email Janet tomorrow morning and copy my boss on it. I want to be completely transparent about the situation. I'm going to suggest that they reconsider David for the original customer service position or look for something similar in another department. I keep second-guessing myself though. Am I being selfish? Is this about my comfort or about what's actually best for the company? David deserves a good job and I'm the one who opened this door for him. But I also can't shake the feeling that managing my ex-boyfriend would be a disaster for everyone involved. Has anyone else been in a similar situation? Am I handling this the right way? Update 1: A lot has happened since my last post and I wanted to update everyone who gave me advice. I sent the email to Janet and my boss explaining the situation. I was honest about my previous relationship with David and said I thought it would be inappropriate for him to report to me. I suggested they consider him for the original customer service role instead. Janet called me within an hour of getting the email. She thanked me for being upfront and said she appreciated me bringing it to her attention. She agreed that it would create an awkward situation and said they would definitely look at other options for David. I thought that was the end of it. I expected Janet to call David and offer him the customer service position, maybe with a slightly higher salary than originally planned. I figured he'd be disappointed about missing out on the marketing role but would still be happy to have a job. Instead, Janet called me back 2 days later with news I wasn't expecting. She said that after discussing it with upper management, they decided not to offer David any position at the company. Her exact words were that they felt it was too risky to hire someone with personal connections to existing employees, even in different departments. I was shocked. I asked if they were worried about me showing favoritism or something like that, and Janet said it wasn't about my professionalism. She said the company had been burned before by situations involving personal relationships and they wanted to avoid any potential complications. I felt terrible. David had been excited about this opportunity and I was the one who made it happen. Now he wasn't getting anything because I had dated him 2 years ago. I debated whether to tell David what happened. Part of me wanted to just let him think they went with another candidate. But I decided he deserved to know the truth, especially since he'd been so grateful for the referral. I called David and explained everything. I told him about the original plan to put him in my department and why I had to disclose our relationship. I also told him about the company's decision not to hire him at all. His reaction was not what I expected. He was quiet for a long time, then he said he understood why I had to say something about us dating. But then he said something that really surprised me. He said he had actually been hoping to work in my department because he thought it would help his career to have someone he knew looking out for him. I asked what he meant by that and he said he figured having an ex-girlfriend as his boss would be better than having a complete stranger. He said he thought I would give him good assignments and help him advance quickly because of our history. I was stunned. I told him that was exactly why I couldn't have him in my department. I said it would be unfair to my other team members if I gave him special treatment, and it would be unfair to him if people thought his success was based on our personal relationship instead of his abilities. David got defensive and said he never expected me to do anything unethical. He said he just thought having a supportive manager would be helpful as he started his career. He said most people use their connections to get ahead and he didn't see why this was different. I tried to explain that there's a difference between networking and having your ex-boyfriend as your boss, but he didn't seem to get it. He said he thought I was being overly cautious and that I had cost him a good opportunity for no reason. The conversation ended awkwardly. David said he needed time to think about everything and that he'd talk to me later. That was 10 days ago and I haven't heard from him since. I've been checking his social media and he seems to be doing okay. He posted about a phone interview he had with another company and said it went well. I wanted to like the post or comment something supportive, but I wasn't sure if that would be appropriate given how our last conversation went. Mark has been really supportive through all of this. He said he thinks I did the right thing and that David's reaction shows I made the correct choice. He said if David was already thinking about how to use our relationship to his advantage, it would have been a problem from day one. I'm still feeling bad about the whole situation though. I genuinely wanted to help David and instead I ended up making things worse for him. I also feel like I've lost a friendship that I valued. We went from talking regularly to complete silence, and I'm not sure how to fix that or if I even should try. I've learned that mixing personal and professional relationships is more complicated than I thought. Even when you think you're doing the right thing, it can backfire in ways you don't expect. Update 2: I need to update everyone because the situation has gotten much more complicated and honestly pretty messy. About 3 weeks ago, I found out that David had been telling people a very different version of what happened. My friend Sarah, 26F, who used to work with both David and me at our previous company called me out of the blue. She said she had run into David at a networking event and that he had told her some things about me that didn't sound right. According to Sarah, David was telling people that I had sabotaged him at my new company because I was jealous that he was moving on with his life. He said I had recommended him for a job and then pulled strings to get him rejected because I couldn't handle seeing him succeed. Sarah said she was confused because that didn't sound like something I would do, but David seemed really convincing. He told her that I had been trying to get back together with him and that when he made it clear he wasn't interested, I retaliated by ruining his job prospects. I was furious when Sarah told me this. None of it was true. I had never tried to get back together with David and I definitely hadn't sabotaged him. I had actually tried to help him and then been honest about a potential conflict of interest. I decided to call David directly to confront him about the lies he was spreading. The conversation did not go well. When I told him what Sarah had said, he didn't deny it. Instead, he said he was just giving people his perspective on what happened. I asked him how he could say I was trying to get back together with him when I have a boyfriend. He said he didn't know Mark and I were serious because we weren't posting couple photos on social media or anything like that. He said he thought Mark was just someone I was casually seeing. Then David said something that really shocked me. He said he had been planning to ask me out again after he got settled in his new job. He said he thought working at the same company would give us a chance to spend more time together and maybe rekindle things. I told him that was never going to happen and that I was happy with Mark. David got angry and said I was being naive if I thought Mark was serious about me. He said if Mark really cared about me, he would have made our relationship official by now. That comment really stung because it hit on something I had been worried about. Mark and I had been together for almost 6 months at that point, but we still hadn't talked about being exclusive or put labels on our relationship. I had been wondering if he was keeping his options open. I ended the call with David feeling worse than when it started. Not only was he spreading lies about me, but he had also planted seeds of doubt about my relationship with Mark. I spent the next few days feeling paranoid about what other people David might have talked to. I started wondering if my coworkers had heard his version of events and were judging me. I also couldn't stop thinking about what he said about Mark. Finally, I decided to talk to Mark about the whole situation. I told him about David's lies and also about the comment he made about our relationship status. I asked Mark directly if he wanted to be exclusive and make things official between us. Mark was quiet for a minute, then he said he thought we already were exclusive. He said he had assumed we were in a committed relationship and that he wasn't seeing anyone else. He said he didn't realize I was worried about labels and that he was happy to call me his girlfriend if that's what I wanted. I felt relieved but also a little embarrassed that I had let David's comment get to me. Mark asked why I was so concerned about what David thought, and I had to admit that I wasn't sure. Maybe part of me still cared about David's opinion even though I didn't want to be with him. Mark said he thought David was probably just trying to cause problems between us because he was angry about the job situation. He said the best thing to do was ignore David's attempts to stir up drama and focus on our own relationship. I decided to take Mark's advice and stop engaging with David entirely. I unfriended him on all social media platforms and blocked his phone number. I also reached out to Sarah and a few other mutual friends to set the record straight about what really happened. Most people were understanding when I explained my side of the story. They said it made more sense than David's version and that they were sorry for doubting me. But I could tell that some people weren't sure who to believe, and that bothered me. The worst part is that I found out David got a job at a competing company in the same industry. Through mutual connections, I heard that he was telling people there about his bad experience with me as well. I'm worried that his lies could hurt my professional reputation if they spread far enough. I've been thinking about whether I should take any formal action, like talking to a lawyer about defamation or something like that. But Mark thinks that would just make the situation worse and give David's lies more attention. He said the best thing to do is let it die down naturally and focus on doing good work. I'm trying to follow his advice, but it's hard to know that someone I used to care about is actively trying to damage my reputation. I keep wondering if I should have handled the original situation differently, but I still think I made the right choice given the information I had at the time. Update 3. I wanted to give everyone a final update on this situation since so many people have been following along and offering support. The good news is that things have mostly settled down. David's lies didn't spread as far as I was worried they would, and the people who matter in my professional circle know the truth about what happened. I've been focusing on my work and my relationship with Mark, and both have been going really well. However, there was one more twist that I wasn't expecting. About 6 weeks ago, I got a LinkedIn message from someone named Jessica, 28F, who said she worked with David at his new company. She said she had heard about the situation between us and wanted to get my side of the story. I was hesitant to respond at first because I didn't want to get drawn back into the drama. But Jessica seemed genuine and said she was asking because David had been causing problems at their workplace too. She said he had been making inappropriate comments about female coworkers and claiming that his previous female boss had been unprofessional with him. I decided to meet Jessica for coffee to hear what she had to say. It turned out that David had been telling people at his new job that I had sexually harassed him and that's why he left his previous opportunity. He was using this false story to explain why he had turned down what he claimed was a great job offer. Jessica said that David's behavior at their company had been getting worse. He had been making his female coworkers uncomfortable with personal comments and had been caught looking at inappropriate content on his work computer. When HR talked to him about it, he claimed he was being targeted because of his previous experience with workplace harassment. Jessica said she had started to doubt David's story when she heard more details. She said it didn't make sense that a woman who was supposedly harassing him would also be the one to report him to HR. She had done some research and found my LinkedIn profile, which led her to reach out. I told Jessica the truth about what happened. I explained that I had tried to help David get a job and had to disclose our previous relationship to avoid a conflict of interest. I showed her the email I had sent to Janet so she could see that I had been professional and honest throughout the process. Jessica thanked me for being willing to talk to her. She said she was planning to speak to her HR department about David's behavior and wanted to make sure they had accurate information about his background. She said several women at their company had already complained about him and that he was likely going to be fired soon. I felt vindicated hearing that other people were seeing David's true character, but I also felt sad about how much he had changed. The person I used to date wasn't perfect, but he had never been manipulative or dishonest like this. I wondered if the job rejection had triggered something in him or if he had always been this way and I just hadn't seen it. True to Jessica's prediction, David was fired from his new job about 2 weeks later. I found out through mutual connections who said he was claiming it was because of a hostile work environment. He's apparently still telling people that women in the workplace have it out for him and that he's being unfairly targeted. I've completely cut off all contact with David and I don't plan to have anything to do with him in the future. I've also learned to be more cautious about mixing personal and professional relationships, even when the intentions are good. Mark and I are doing great. We've been officially together for almost a year now and we're talking about moving in together. He's been incredibly supportive throughout this whole ordeal and I'm grateful to have someone who trusts me and has my back. My career is going well too. I got a promotion last month and I'm now managing a team of 3 people. I've been very careful to maintain appropriate boundaries with everyone I work with and I always disclose any potential conflicts of interest up front. The whole experience taught me that sometimes doing the right thing can still lead to unexpected consequences. But I'm confident that I handled the situation as well as I could have given the circumstances. I'm also grateful that David showed his true colors before I got more involved in helping him, because it could have been much worse if he had actually gotten the job in my department. I want to thank everyone who commented on my previous posts and offered advice. It really helped to know that other people understood why I had to make the choices I did. I hope my experience can help someone else who might find themselves in a similar situation.